technical problem there. But as I was saying earlier, welcome to MeepUp Con. We're meeting with Dice Coalition Games right now, and they will be joining us here to talk more about their game. There we go. And we're going to start from the beginning. So with me here, I have Dice Coalition Games with Fabricio Leotti. They are coming out with a game quite soon to Kickstarter. And it's the Cyberpunk HD music that we were using in our break screen here. So let us all welcome Fabricio. So what is your
Hello.
game? Yeah. And welcome to MeepUpCon. I'm glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Dina. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Yes, small technical difficulties, but you should be able to hear us now. Excellent. So why don't you tell us a little bit, what is your game?
Yes. So Hyperwars is a real-time area control game, and I came up with this idea from a video game that I used to play. It's called Tower of Ascension, and I wanted to create a game to convey the same sort of feeling of urgency that something is happening and you need to take action as soon as possible, exactly like in this video game. Of course, the theme is completely different. So Hyperwars takes place on a cyberpunk world, as Gina said. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey from conceptualizing the game, having all the tests, the design, repeating this process, and moving on with this, because this is the first game that I decided to actually publish. So yeah, it's been a crazy journey.
And you've been creating a bit of a community around this venture of yours.
Yes, that is true. So we have been using social media through Facebook, through Instagram, and guess what? Even through TikTok. I never thought I would be a TikToker ever, but there I am. And we are trying to gather people that like cyberpunk, that want this little bit more of action in their board game sessions, that think that, okay, playing with turns is super cool, but what if we ditch the turns and just make this as quick and fast and emotion as possible. So
Mm,
that's everything that Hyperwars is about.
right. And so, yeah, not just have you curated a community around your game, but I hear you have been doing more things when it comes to community based for your game designing venture. So, what
That
have you been
is,
up to?
yeah. So of course, when I started designing more games and decided I want to go to publish, trying to publishing them, I started. I live in Sweden, and I decided to, okay, how can I get more integrated to the board game scene here in Stockholm, here in Sweden? And of course, I started looking around. I found some very interesting people. And with some of those people, we ended up creating something called Sigma. It's an acronym that means Swedish Indie Game Market Alliance. And it is a non-profit organization that has as objective try and help independent game designers here in Sweden to self-publish their games. So if we have designers that are really motivated and they want to move forward with their designs and make them available to a broader public, but they don't know exactly how, or maybe they're not completely decided on which ways to take,
Mhm.
that's the kind of advice that Sigma provides, and especially through a mentorship program. But we also do a lot of other stuff. Just last week, we had an online convention as well for board game designers, where we had a lot of great people talking about all the parts in the chain of production of a game. So yeah, it's a really great project.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. It's a little bit like the one of our sponsors, the Hive, is doing here in Finland, and it's just
Ah,
across a little bit of a water, and it's
yeah.
so cool to get to see all these small communities popping up around. So, has it been challenging to starting up this? You did a convention. How did that go?
Yeah, the commission was really good. We didn't have a lot of people there yet. I think we still are missing a little bit of marketing of like, let's spread the word and make sure that everybody can find us. But regarding the topics that we covered and the feedback that we got from people there, it was like super cool. Everybody loved it, and I think we should do more of this. I definitely would like to do. It's called SIGCON, and we'd love to do SIGCON even outside the online environment. Although I think it works amazingly in this sort of like Discord plus streaming
Mhm.
environment, but yeah, it's been challenging, of course, having a community-based company during the pandemic, during the all the with all the restrictions. So yeah, it's been challenging, but also very, very interesting.
Yeah, I was watching in on most of the things that you were doing on SitCon because obviously I was one of the speakers. I was talking about social media, and you had someone talking about like the whole road to going on Kickstarter. Did you find it really helpful when it comes to your own journey with Hyperwars?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So we had this amazing talk from Christian Calberry, speaking exactly about this, how he took his game from idea and concept through Kickstarter, and he's like fulfilling the deliveries right now. So it's amazing. This talk was really inspirational for me. It makes a lot of sense, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work if you want to follow through this path, but it's completely possible if you want to do it as a independent game designer.
Yeah, I hear some people say that, like we've been talking about earlier, also yesterday when we were talking with game designer, once you've actually hit that launch button, you're like 10% in on the whole journey because then afterward, it comes fulfillment and shipping and actually, realizing the game. And do you think you'll be doing a little bit of a celebration once you hit that launch button?
Yes, I'm definitely gonna be doing this. As you said, it's 10%, but it's still so much things that you have to go to, like crawl through all this ladder until you get there to the launch button, and then you realize that it's just like the first gate that you have, and then you need to move along, and like yeah, okay, it's gonna be very, very intense for sure, especially during the campaign, but also after. It's a lot of skills that you need to develop, you need to understand to kind of do this kind of stuff. So it's just really not about only designing the game, and it is a path that I consider that's critical for everyone that wants to self-publish their games, uh, and it's totally worth it. Yeah.
So, with Hyperwars, how are you planning on doing? Like, do you have a launch date in mind?
We have some dates in mind, of course. Defining a specific date depends on a lot of stuff. For example, depends a little bit on your the target amount of money you want to ask. Depends on how many people you have that is close enough for you to like let everyone know in the first day. Depends on a lot of factors. So we have
Mhm.
some dates. We have expectation that we can launch at the end of July, maybe last week or the week before that. But we didn't like finish that, or we didn't have like decided completely on this. But yeah,
Mhm.
hopefully we're gonna get there in like 2.5 months. So yeah.
Right. That's great. I'm gonna pop in a link for everyone who is curious about the game. I mean, Fresh Meat from the chat here is saying that you had me at Towerfall Ascension. They
Awesome.
seem to be really interested in hearing more about the game itself. I mean, you show the box a little bit, but maybe
Yeah,
you will open the
I
box up
can
and we can have a peek.
I
This
can
is
show
obviously a
more.
prototype.
Yes, yes. This is a prototype, a review prototype. Actually, it's being reviewed by some reviewers right now, or previewers. Of course, it's not a launched game yet. So, but yeah, it's around, and you're gonna soon start hearing more about what other people think about it. Because I think it's amazing, but I mean, yeah, I don't know, I don't know if that counts. But
Maybe you don't quite count since it is,
yes, yes, maybe not.
So
Yeah.
do you think games become a little bit like your baby?
Well, they kind of do, although maybe they shouldn't, because there's one thing I didn't say about this campaign is that when I started Hyperwars the first time, uh, I did it because I wanted a smaller game. I was developing a bigger game that I'm still developing, but I wanted a smaller game that I could test like faster, and then I could take quickly to Kickstarter, so I
Mhm.
could learn how to do Kickstarter things. So what I'm really trying to say here is that I created Hyperwars to fail on Kickstarter the first time because I didn't want to fail with a bigger, longer, harder to fix game, of course. But then, of course, now I don't want it to fail. I don't want to even be close to this. I'm trying to close all the gaps, so I don't get there really. In the end, you get a little bit attached, of course. There's no way around this, I think. But as long as it is healthy and you are still open, like to change your plans or to change your mind about stuff in the game or in the campaign, how you conduct that, I guess it's okay. No worries.
Yeah, and obviously you're not going to play test this because we do have someone in chat asking if there will be a demo or play test for the game, but we're not doing that. And would you tell us a little bit of why and how you came to the conclusion?
Yes, definitely. So I have play tested Hyperwars a lot of times, both in physical form, but also in online form. I've been part of the VPT, the Virtual Play Testing Group, for a long while with Hyperwars, and I got a lot of great feedback there. But to be very honest, playing Hyperwars in Tabletop Simulator, and I have a version, of course, it kind of hurts the game a bit. It is a fast-paced game. It is real time, as I said. So what happens is that doesn't deliver the exact same experience in the end. So I had to make a lot of small changes in the gameplay to allow people to have a more smooth interaction with the environment, tabletop simulator. So at some point I decided, okay, I learned a lot playing and play testing Hyperwars in tabletop simulator, but mainly because I was playing with other game designers, and they know that there is a difference between playing and in online and playing physical form for real-time games, and they can relate to that when giving you feedback. But with the general audience, I didn't feel like, I don't know, I think I'm going to be hurting their experience, and that's the last thing I want to do with Hyperwars or the
Absolutely.
audience.
Yeah. And with real-time games like these, and it's so fast-paced. I've seen some of the footage, and it just goes so quickly. And you would have to rely on people being really well familiar with TTS at all, how it's working, or otherwise you'd have to like end up adding a bunch of mods in order for there just to be buttons to push, which again is going to hurt a lot of the experience
Yeah.
of these kind of games. But maybe you
Not
could show us some of the components instead. And
Yes, definitely, yeah. So it's still on the TTS stuff, not only the experience, but also you end up seeing some bugs depending on how much you need to stretch TTS when playing. So in
yeah,
Hyperwars, for example, you receive cards from other players, and if at some point you have so many cards that they can't be kept in that space where you put the cards in TTS, and you start seeing bugs happening because no more cards fit there. So yeah, I don't know.
and
It's
and
really
while and while steampunk is glitchy and all that, and maybe you don't really want that to be a part of the gaming
That's
experience.
not part experience exactly. But yes, the components. So first thing I wanna say is that for me one of the like top things about Hyperwars is the artwork. Artwork is amazing. If you haven't seen, go to Dice Coalition's social media. You're gonna see a lot of great art there. They are all from a amazing artist called Niklas Hook. Let me point his name here. Niklas Hook. He's an amazing guy and an amazing artist, and he has done some really cool art for the game. So, for example, there are several boards that you can play in Hyperwars. So let me show you one of my favorites here, which is the market. I don't know how much you can see here, but it's really beautiful.
Gorgeous. Just
Yeah, I love like this robot here talking to these kids, and this is really amazing. We also have one that it's a place that I honestly, I'd like to be there. It's a flying party.
ooh, look at that.
It's amazing. It's like a day and night party that flies over the city. So yeah, I would love to be there really. It's really cool. And those are only the boards. We have some characters as well in the game. So let me show you one of my favorite ones. This is a tile that you can use to let's say set up an ambush to against your opponents. It's called Data Lake. It's like a hacker.
All right.
Yeah, it's super nice. And of course, the game also has other cards. So the graphic design itself is very modern and a lot of iconography. So here you have like action cards with different types of actions you can do. So yeah, the game is quite nice, and it's also a little bit of a tribute for science fiction because in the back of all cards we have some text. Here, of
Mm.
course, you're not going to be able to read it right now, but it's text, and it's from a book from the beginning of the 20th century called "The Machine Stops," and it's a book that I really like, and I wanted to pay homage to it, to give it some attention and bring it forward for the people to learn more about it.
Hmm. And obviously, for those who saw the link that we posted to Dice Coalition Games, they can find all the social media where there'll be clips shown from an actual live play. And I'm guessing you'll be planning more live streams like these of the game as you
Yeah,
get closer to
exactly.
launch.
Yes, exactly. So we're gonna have videos showing how to play the game, so like tutorials, but also some really people just playing, and we see like the action of the game going around. As I said, there are a lot of cards going around in the table, so the game is very dynamic. You can see like people trying to do a lot of stuff as fast as they can, so they don't lag behind from the other player's perspective. So yeah, definitely we're gonna be see some videos about this soon.
Yeah, that's really nice. And you have added a little bit of a personal touch to this the game. I hear your wife has been sewing.
Yes, that is true. One of the key components in the game, and thanks for reminding me of this, Dina, is a bag. Every player has a bag. So we have those bags. Those are pretty nice, very
Yeah.
nice. Orange color, I really like it. And you basically throw some cubes inside, and then you have to take them again. So it's kind of a randomizer in your production of resources during the game. And that's my wife. My wife sew all these bags. We did it for the review prototypes. And it's not only that she sew everything, but my wife is also a huge enthusiast about 3D printers. So we in fact have like three 3D printers at home, and like she's printing stuff all the time. And we thought that for a cyberpunk game, the tokens, the cubes and the meeples, they shouldn't be made of wood. They should be made of plastic to give this more artificial, futuristic feeling. And of course, we printed all the stuff at home in our 3D printer. So maybe I can show you some of the things. So we have like the meeples. They are like bright orange,
Oh.
printed at home. We have a lot of cubes.
Oh, wow, look at
Yeah,
that.
it's really cool, and I really like the colors that we picked for. So, for example, the resources, they are like bright green or bright blue or bright red, but everything is very bright in the game, so very neon-like.
Hmm.
So yes, and everything, all of this for the prototypes, for the review prototypes were made at home. We did everything at home, except for the box and the rulebook and all the cardboard stuff. Everything else was done at home.
And that's all for the prototype.
Yes, this is everything that we have for the prototype. So the bags, the meeples, the cubes, the tiles, the cards, and the boards and the bags. Yes,
Yeah. And when you're going into Kickstarter, you're obviously going to get everything through a manufacturer, I'm assuming, or are you self-printing?
yeah. I don't think we have enough machines to print everything at home. I would love to do that though. It would be amazing, but I don't think we can keep up with that. So yeah, definitely it's going through a manufacturer. Of course, then the materials will change a little bit, maybe the format and the sizes a little bit, because of course this is as you said, this is just a prototype. But yeah, I'm taking care of this right now, taking care that all the manufacturers I've been talking to can actually provide nice components for the game.
So, in terms of like, we have a question from the chat here. So what is it that you're most excited about when it comes to the game mechanism?
Aha, okay, I can definitely talk about this. So I think that I really love the main mechanic in Hyperwars, which is you start the game with 3 cards, and they are always the same 3 cards. I can even show them to you here. It's one of these cards called Delivery, and then it's one of those cards called Deploy Movement, and one of those cards called Produce. Where is a Produce? Here, Produce. So you start with those 3 cards in your hand, and everybody starts with the same cards, and they perform different actions, of course. But then the nice thing I like about the main mechanic is that you decide which card you want to play. You play the card in front of you, face up, and then you execute the action. And as soon as you have done this, you pass the card to the player on your right, face down. And as soon as you move this card to the left of that player, that card is considered to be in their hands already. And of course, then you need to reach out and pick the cards that are coming from the other player on your left. So the game becomes like a flow of cards and it's going around. And there's a catch, of course, because at the end of the game runs for 5 minutes exactly. And after that, we do a scoring phase. And after the scoring phase, for every 2 cards you have left in your hand, you lose 1 point. So you cannot really be like slow and take decisions on the some really like think everything through and look at what everyone else is doing, because there's no time for that. Because as soon as you have cards piling up on your left, you have a lot of cards. And of course, the game plays from 3 to 5 players, so you're gonna have like from 9 to 15 cards going around. But that's not only that. There is a central deck where you can find different actions. So you can reach out to this central deck and therefore adding more cards to the circle of cards. So in the end, you're not going to have just 15 cards to deal with. You're going to have a lot more than that. So that's the mechanic I love the most. It's really amazing to see people trying to keep up the pace of the others and trying to make sure that they don't get a lot of cards in their hands at the end of the game.
Yeah, so it's basically like initial drafting, and you get to screw your neighbors.
Yeah, that's precisely what happens in the game exactly. Yeah.
That's great. Freshman is saying thank you for the answer.
Yeah. Oh, no, well, you're
And
welcome.
also all credits to your wife for doing all the printing and
Uh, yeah, she's amazing. It's not easy to put up with a game designer husband for sure. So yeah.
So does it get messy when you're in your creative zone? We had that little bit of a Discord here on Twitter a couple of days ago where we're talking about just how messy things can get on our desk while working on games. Do you the same way?
Yes, definitely. So of course I try to keep as clean and organized as possible because I also have cats. And this is a mixture that can go very wrong. If you leave like pieces laying around, they're not gonna be in the same place next day for sure. So you really need to take care with this. And then, so normally what I do is that I get as messy as I need to during the creation process, but then I have like big plastic boxes where I throw everything inside, everything I finish up stuff, and I normally take pictures of everything, so I don't need to like let them around in the kitchen or my office or something. So yeah, I try to protect the prototypes from the cats as well.
Don't feed the cats any meeples, they're saying on the chat
No,
here.
yeah.
So, with all the sewing that was happening, did you pick up any as well? Did you learn to sew during this, or were you just watching?
I mostly watch it for sure. My wife has she sews more stuff as well, not only the bags. So her mom is actually a person that does that for a living, so she knows a lot about it.
Mm.
I try to learn a little bit here and there, but I don't have a very strong like uh, eye-hand coordination and this kind of stuff. I can get really messy. I can hurt myself for sure if I try that for too long.
Oh. So, in the final game, are these hand-sewn bags going to be with it, or is it just for the prototype?
No, this is gonna be in the final game as well, and that's one of the things I had to ask about uh, to all the manufacturers, because if you see this, we tried this with a lot of different shapes of bags, and
Mm-hmm.
normally the bags you find in the industry, they are square at the
Mm.
bottom. But the problem is you are throwing cubes inside this bag, and then you need to reach inside the bag and pick some of the cubes. And the thing is, they normally end up stored in the two corners you have.
Yeah.
And that makes it super messy, super hard. And as I already said, the game is very fast paced, so you don't have time to just like trying to go around and finding which corner are your cubes or something. So there's no time to this. So we had to experiment on more formats, and the one we found was the best is, of course, this one, because all of the pieces they go to the center when they reach the bottom. Because also the bag cannot be super small because you need to fit your hand in there comfortably so you can do this fast. So they go inside. So I got this precise specification to the manufacturers, and I asked directly if they could do this kind of cut to make sure that the cubes go to the center. And happily, most of the manufacturers I asked about, they can do that. It's apparently it's not that hard. So yeah, expect to have the same quality of picking up cubes from in the final game.
Yeah, so in one of the videos from your Instagram, I see that you're putting it in your pocket, and it is kind of pocket shaped. I mean, Fresh Meat here is
Yes.
saying it's kind of like a diaper shaped bag, but maybe we're gonna stick with calling it a pocket shape. So how does that work? Like, do you just tuck it in there and you find it easier? Is it faster? Does it help the game?
Yeah, this is a huge topic of conversation around every Hyperwars game because, as I said, you need to have, and this is one of the rules. You cannot put your cards down while you're playing. You cannot leave your cards on the table. You need to keep them in your hand and also your bag. So you need to be able to play and keep the bag at the same time. So it is a bit of a struggle, and people find the most creative ways to resolve that. So one of the ways, for example, is putting the bag on your pocket, and that's allowed. You can do that. Maybe if that's fine, it's okay. Some people also make a knot with those two strings, and they just like make it fit on in their fingers, and they can just like let it hang, so they can use the cards and then
That's really
reach.
clever.
Yeah, exactly. I think so too, because they
Ugh.
can hold with the same hand and they go here. So yeah, that also works. The way I do it, and I must say in my defense that I'm not the best Hyperwars player. I normally I keep it like this. I hold it like this, and I just keep the cards here.
Hmm.
I do it like this,
So
and then
you
I just
hold the
reach
bag.
inside, and exactly. So I can do this. But I've seen
Uh,
people, for example, putting the bag on the table, leaving it more or less like this, and just reaching inside every time they need. Yeah, if it works for you, fine, you can do that. It's a bit cumbersome, and you cannot look inside. It's supposed to be random, so you cannot really look inside and search for a specific a color of cube that you want or something. So yeah, but it's a nice challenge. It's everybody always speaks about this. How do you hold this bag? Where can I put it? So yeah, you need to find your way.
So you would have to have a really good string as well so that it doesn't snap during play. Or have you had ever that like the bag just flies away? Because it gets so hectic, must be in like 5 minutes.
I think I've never seen the bag falling or something like this. But what I have seen already is that with a different version of the bag, that while someone was playing, it was like in their hands like this or something. They went to like raise their hands to pick something on the board, and they just flipped the whole bag, and then the cubes went down. Like this was like yeah okay. It was a more hard material as well, and like yeah okay, this is not we cannot do the bag out of this. People are gonna like do this all the time.
That's a good point. So the fabric that you're ending up choosing as well is going to be important.
Yes, exactly. So it cannot be so for two reasons. One, that it cannot be so thin that you can see through, because then you can see how many cubes there are inside someone else's or
Mm-hmm.
your bag, and you cannot do this. But also because of the how much structure the material gives to your bag as well. So if it's too soft, for example, it's very hard to reach inside and pick something and take it out very quickly. But if it's too hard, then it becomes like a cup of sorts, and it can turn over, and then everything goes to hell. So yeah, it's kind of a tricky design decision.
Yeah.
Even during the design of the game, we thought about, okay, maybe we don't want to have these bags in the game. Maybe that's too much. Maybe we should have, like dice towers, but instead of having
Mm-hmm.
dice towers, just drop some cubes, and inside the tower, we would have some sort of net to prevent that all cubes fell through.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the cubes would be coming outside, and people could take from this outside bin when it was going through the tower. And that didn't work at all, because guess what? People was like slamming the tower and dropping in the middle of the people the whole game, because everything happened so fast that it was hard.
What about like peak rounded balls? Like you have the ones that people use for succulents. They're like it's kind of sort of like a lid so you could put your hand in and then go down to pick up.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I see.
mean,
Yeah, good work. I don't know exactly how we can do this as random as we would need, for example, because there's this randomness, right? You cannot see what's inside, so it could be a bit of hard as well. So in the end, the bag was proven to be the best way to do it, and it's kind of interesting to see people sometimes struggling a little bit to get the hang of it and make sure that they are doing this. But after like 1 or 2 games, and they are very short games, of course, uh, the game takes like 10, 15 minutes to play, including the scoring phase. So yeah, after 2 or 3 maybe matches, then everyone is ready to really use the bag without too much of a fuss.
We're having a suggestion from the chat here saying that you should probably check out Frostpunk, the board game, because it had a throwing cubes into tower as a generator and only make some of them fall to the bottom.
I love that mechanic. I remember another game that had the same. It was, I don't remember the name it's exactly, but it was one with robots in an amusement park for robots or something like this. I don't remember the name of the game, but they had the same sort of mechanic, and I love this mechanic from Frostpunk as well. I think it's really really cool. But that's exactly the type of thing that was not going well, because people were just slamming or bumping into the tower and then dropping the tower during the game. So yeah,
Yeah.
we tried that for a little while. We had like maybe 20 centimeter towers printed in plastic with internal bridges of plastic that would like prevent some of the cubes to go through. So it's kind of a randomizer as well. But then yeah, it didn't work that well. The bag was more comfortable to everything.
Yeah. It seems like you've thought about everything in order to make this happen.
Yeah, I've played the game more than 200 times so far.
That's good. I mean, they say that a good any game should be tested at least 100 sessions prior to going on Kickstarter, so it sounds like you have had those hours in.
Yes, for sure. So, and that was one of the ideas with Hyperwars, right? So we wanted a game that I could play like a lot of times. So if I have a game that takes 3 hours to play, it's very rare that you're gonna get some people that wants to play, I don't know, twice in a row. It's very hard. But with Hyperwars, you can play like 5 games in an hour. So yeah, of
Yeah.
course, why not? So yeah.
And I've heard that you might be making a supporting app. I'm just thinking about it. So how are you approaching that idea? I mean, it's 5 minutes game, so it could definitely lend itself with like music clips. And what's your thought about this?
Yeah, so I am my background is more on the role-playing game. So I've been an avid role-playing gamer for like a long time, for like 20 years or so. And we always like to play RPGs with music. It's amazing. And with board games, this is not as common, I would say. I don't know exactly why, but people maybe, I don't know if it's you need to think too much, maybe it gets a little bit annoying, you get distracted by the music. So I don't know, it gets in the way. But one thing I love about Hyperwars is that since it's a fast-paced game, it's so fast and so quick to play. It has a rhythm, and listening to music, especially electronic music, helps a lot with the game. It adds a lot of atmosphere in the game. For example, every time I have a group that is really pumped to play the game, I used to play some dubstep while they're playing, and this makes the game even more intense. People get really like into the game. They really get there in the flow of the game. So this is really cool.
All right. Yeah, so it gets adrenaline pumping and you're matching the music with the theme of your game.
Yes, and also of course, although we are allowed to talk to each other during the game, it's not common that people do that because they're really focusing on their objectives, what they need to do in the game, and therefore having the music doesn't really bothers anyone. They don't really have to like talk or discuss anything during the game.
Hmm. And we're having a question here from the chat saying, techno or house? What would you think about that? Because they're so different rhythms. Could that work?
For sure, yeah, I think so. Techno, I think would be amazing. House is good as well. I think I never played listening to house music, but I think it would be very cool as well. I mean, I tried a lot of different electronic rhythms with the Hyperwars, and as fast as you can. So yeah, it really works. I guess, I don't have a specific rhythm in particular. I personally like dubstep a lot, so that's why I use it. But I think it can go with a nice playlist.
Yeah, and you have a soundtrack for the game that you're going to be using. How did you find someone who, like, did you get it made specifically for the game, or did you find someone online?
Yeah, cool. So for the campaign right now that we are running, the marketing campaign that we are doing, yeah, I bought some specific music for all the pieces that we are doing and so on. For when you're playing, well, this is something I will keep it a bit of a mystery about it, but we are planning to add something related to music on the campaign as well, the Kickstarter campaign.
Hmm, interesting. So there's a little bit of a teaser there.
Yes, definitely. Yes, yes. I really think that Hyperwars goes amazingly with music, and that's why we are preparing some stuff regarding this during the
Some,
campaign.
some stuff. Ooh. I mean, now that's a teaser. I do wonder. Maybe you
Yeah,
could
how
whisper
many
to me afterwards.
how many times you can think about what is your favorite song to play that board game? So I don't think there's many board games that fit into that, and Hyperwars definitely will be one. So.
Yeah, yeah. So right now when you're playtesting, you're using like a timer. So the timer goes off and it's been 5 minutes and everyone is just hands off.
Exactly. So when the timer goes off, that's it. You can finish your action if you have as I said, you put the card in front of you, face
Mhm.
up. If you have the card in this way, you can finish your action, but you cannot pass the card to the next player. So this card stays with you and
Mhm.
could take points from you. But yes, when it's 5 minutes, it's hands off, and then we just start the scoring phase.
That sounds really intense.
Indeed, it is. Yeah.
And you've already sent out prototypes. Do you know when you'll be starting to share those and we'll get some intel on what people are thinking about the game?
Yeah, so this week I got some feedbacks from previewers, and I'm very happy to know that people are actually enjoying the game. It's the first time that people are playing the game like outside my range. Every time we played in the past like 2 3 years was always with me doing it or explaining the game or someone reading the rule book, but still with me driving the session and stuff like that. But I'm very glad about the first feedbacks I'm getting, and the previewers are actually asking me when I want to the previews and the reviews to be out, and I think I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. So I guess we're gonna start seeing stuff from June because, as I said, the campaign is expected to happen in July. I don't want to like do this way before, so it will kind of lose strength, and I need all that strength that I need that I can have for the campaign. Of course, I need people engaged and wanting to help the development of this. So probably from June, you're gonna start seeing a lot of good material around Hyperwars.
That's great. You definitely got some neat stuff coming up. And beyond your game and Sigma that we've heard about, what is going to happen for you? Like, what is the road? Like you mentioned, there's another game maybe that will coming after this. What are your
Yeah,
plans for
yeah. So
Dice
that's on
Coalition
a
games?
Yeah, that's one of the decisions I took. I love to be a game designer, and I love to having my game played by other people. And more recently, I've been really interested in the idea of publishing my games. But I feel like I really need to start this as a sort of small publisher as well. I don't want to simply pitch games to other publishers. Of course, I will do that as well, but I also feel that I'd like um, to own or to own the chain myself. And of course, Hyperwars is not the last game you're gonna see from Last Coalition. We have some others in mind, and one thing that I really enjoy is that although I love fantasy theme, I think we have a lot of games on this, and I wanted to do something different. So I have chosen mostly futuristic settings, and Hyperwars is not only one game that takes place in this fictitious city called Urbana, but this is going to be a whole universe, and more of my games will take place in the same universe. So, for example, right now I'm developing a two-player game that is about robots that can teleport products. And it's basically like a fulfillment center. So you have robots receiving orders and having to teleport the correct products into the correct boxes in the correct order. And the player that can do this better will win the game. So it's a 1 versus 1 game, and it takes about 30 minutes to play. So this is like it's been a very big entertainment for me to play and to develop. We also have longer games that we are planning. So the one that precedes even Hyperwars, we've been developing this for a long time, although we haven't touched this design for some time now. But yeah, it's a longer game. It's like 3 hours more or less playtime, and it's steampunk based. The theme is steampunk. So yeah, it's really cool. So there's a lot of things coming out with Dice Coalition in the future for sure.
So it's kind of like LEU, your Leotti's Extensive Universe, they're saying here in the chat.
I love that, Dina. I love that. Exactly.
Freshmeat is wondering, is there a reason why the minimum player count is 3 and not 2? Or have you considered any 4-2 players when it comes to Hyperwars?
Yeah, so I've tried this game with 2 players, but as I said, since the game is basically passing cards around, when you pass cards between only 2 players, you affect a lot of what happens with you by passing too many cards. So in the end, what we got from the players' experience is that they were kind of always trying to play a completely fair game. Like, I'm not going to give you 2 cards until you give me 2 cards, because I will be affected by that as well, because the chain is too short. When I have 3 players, it's much better. And then in the end, we decided to go. I would love to have this game for 2 players as well, but it was kind of hard. We thought about some, I don't know, different mechanisms that we could include to avoid this kind of happening, but this was also hurting a little bit the real-time sense of things. So we decided to go with three players, which is a good count. I understand that sometimes it's hard to find more than 2 players to play something, but in the end, that was the best for the experience of playing the game.
Yeah, Freshmeat is saying it's kind of like playing Uno with 2 players.
Yes,
It's
exactly like this.
it doesn't really quite work. You get the game stalling. So when you're not working with games, what sort of games do you usually want to play yourself?
Okay, I am a huge fan of engine building games. So I love games where you just need to like think the mechanism through very carefully to kind of get one more point here or scrape another point there, and this kind of things when you are playing, you need really to make it smooth. So one of my favorite games, for example, is Scythe, which I think is a great example of a engine building game. It's really cool, but I mean, almost all game that is gonna give me a chance to build on top of my previous doings during the game, it's gonna amaze me. I really like it. And more recently, I've been playing a lot of Civilization games. Being really curious about this. I have played like long time ago. I have played like Civilization, the one based on the video game. And although I love the game, it is it is hard to play because it takes so long to play, like many hours. And I love to play long games, but not everyone does. So it's hard to find a group that will like continually play this game and stuff like this. So I have been looking for games that have the same feeling of building a civilization, but at the same time they don't take that super long. So yeah, that's something I've been trying a lot lately.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you for sharing. That's nice. We are coming up to like 15 minutes now. We're gonna have Dog Spawn coming up and we're gonna do a live play. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience before we take a short break?
Yes, so thank you very much for listening to me. I'm very happy that you are all here. And stay tuned for Hyperwars. If you want to bring some action to your table, if you want to think real-time games in a complete different way, it is strategic. Strategic. You need to think really through. It's not some just party game just because it's fast. I know I like party games, and I know a lot of people do, but many people think that real-time games are always like, yeah, okay, a bit more party and stuff like that. That's not the case with Hyperwars. It's serious business. You're gonna get like a rush of adrenaline when you play it. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we're having someone in this chat suggesting that you could try Tapestry. Have you tried that one? It's also from
Yeah,
Stonemaier.
I haven't. I tried to buy it, but it's so hard to find it here. Very hard. I tried one new. It's not a new game. It's an old game, but I tried. It's new for me yesterday. It's called the Golden Ages. It's an amazing game. I really enjoyed, and it really gives the feeling of like bringing up a civilization through all the ages. And it takes about 1.5, 2 hours to play. So it's a really good type of game.
Mm, nice.
But I'm
Yeah.
really excited to try Tapestry. I really want to.
Yeah, and us here up in the Nordics, tapestry can be really difficult to get your hands on. I've tried, so
Yeah.
I can relate to that one.
I tried even in Essen Spiel in 2019, and like they had maybe 30 boxes in total, and I couldn't
Uh,
get one, unfortunately. So yeah.
maybe, fingers crossed. If maybe if Stonemaier is hearing this, we have someone who really wants your game. Try to get
Yeah.
them. We need more copies over here in Europe.
Awesome.
You never know, right? We'll just shout it on Twitter and maybe something will happen.
Yes.
You never know. So you've been learning a little bit about social media as well during this experience, because you said that you've never been on TikTok before, and so how has that been for you?
Yeah, it's a great experience. And you're right. I haven't just learning a little. I have been learning a lot. There's a lot I didn't know, like all the hashtag stuff and how you make sure that people are engaging your posts. I used to post in social media, of course, for Hyperwars and for Dice Coalition before, but it's like, yeah, okay, I can do this very poorly, or I can pick someone that can really crush this and make it happen. So yeah, I guess the latter is much better.
Hmm. But that's
And
great.
thank you for that, by the way.
Yes. I mean, for those who don't know, I've been helping Fabricio here on social media and been teaching him along the way. So it's been good working with you, and thank you for joining us here on MeepUp. And I'm gonna
Thank
head us over
you.
to a break screen, and I'm gonna catch myself some more water before I jump in on a live play of Dog Spawn. So for those who are wanting to see that, stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.